With me today is CJ Pearson. He's the co-chair of the GOP Youth Advisory Council and a very sweet friend for joining us today. Hey, CJ, welcome to Underreported Stories.
Chrissy Clark, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. So I want to give the audience a little bit of background as to why I'm having you on. So earlier this year, you hosted a wildly successful event, my favorite party of Inauguration Weekend. It was called the Power 30 Awards. And the whole point of it was to celebrate the influencers who directly impacted the 2024 victory of Donald Trump. And there were obviously going to be reporters there covering the event. We all knew that. We saw people from the Free Press. We saw Taylor Lorenz there in her sparkly mask. There was friendly media, there was unfriendly media. It was a whole thing. But the controversy of this party really came in when the New York Magazine wrote an article titled The Cruel Kids Table and seemingly intentionally left you out of the story and pretty much every Black, Hispanic, racial minority that was there at the party out of this story. So when this magazine article first came out, what was your initial reaction to the cover?
Initially, I didn't notice actually the cropping out of the African Americans and of the people of color from the cover until it was pointed out later on social media. As I read the story, it was a typical hit piece. I've, been the subject of those since I was 12 years old, starting off in the conservative movement. So, a little bit of pushback from the liberal media isn't something that, spooks me or makes me too upset these days. But what does make me upset is outright deceit and deception, which is exactly what this is. They sought to perpetuate this narrative that this was some racially homogenous group of MAGA cultists coming together to celebrate the new dawn of America. And they wanted it to sound sadistic. They wanted it to sound nefarious, but it was anything but that. You were there, you can attest to it, and so can everyone else who is at that celebration. It was a celebration of joy, something of which that I thought that the Democrats were largely in support of, or at least Kamala Harris would have led us to believe it, but I guess not, because they saw this picture of young, healthy, hot, and handsome young people celebrating the new golden age of America, and it made them actually so angry that they went to such lengths to lie about everyone in the room. And I gotta tell you, the way in which it blew up in their face, I've gotta say, I don't think they'll be doing something like this ever again.
Right. What was the point when you were logistically thinking this through? Like, what is the point of letting unfriendly media in? I think a lot of people are like, well, why reward these people with access? What was the thought process behind that for you?
Well, Brock was someone I'm not familiar with. I wasn't aware that he actually was going to be in attendance. He was invited, by my co-host Raquel DeBono. But at the end of the day, I think the overall premise of having unfriendly media there is that we weren't doing anything that we needed to hide. We were, as you acknowledged, we were celebrating the impact that influencers had upon this election, which allowed President Trump to circumvent the corporate media, circumvent the liberal media, and go directly to consumer, go directly to the American people where they increasingly are listening to podcasts like yours, scrolling through TikTok, going and watching Instagram Reels, and consuming news and media that way. That was a huge part of the president's overwhelming victory and the mandate he was given by the American people. And so, I wasn't worried about, liberal reporters being there because we weren't doing anything wrong. And the thing is, we were doing so little wrong, they had to construct a wrong. They wanted us to seem as if we were all of a sudden excluding all the Black people, excluding all the Hispanic, excluding all
So
the
true.
Jews, but there were many there present. And they went to the lengths that they did by excluding me from the story, excluding people of color from the cover photo, because they realized that there was no there. So they had to create the there, but then people are a lot smarter than they actually thought of. And people very quickly realized that what they were being led to believe just wasn't so at all.
Yeah, and I think with Brock in particular, this is the individual who wrote the New York Magazine article. I kind of told you off air, I haven't said it on air yet, that he had reached out to me and noticed that Turning Point USA at the time was in my bios and reached out to me in hopes of getting access for free to a Turning Point event because I think there was a narrative or an agenda set and he just wanted to get in the door at whatever party was going to allow him in there. And he was going to write the same story no matter whether it was at Power 30, a Turning Point party, the Liberty, like wherever he got in, he had the agenda set. And I think that's why you are now taking legal action against New York Magazine. What does that look like right now?
Yeah, at the end of the day, when I looked at this story, I had to come to the conclusion that I was sick and tired of allowing the liberal media to lie about conservative almost with license and get away with it. They get to slander us as racist and for some odd reason have never been held accountable. That ends today. And so I made the decision to retain legal counsel. Our attorney, Ron Coleman, who has represented former president and current president Donald J. Trump in several legal matters. And he's taking a hard look at what our litigation strategy should be from here. Of course, we're dealing with an unfriendly jury in D.C., probably a similarly unfriendly jury in the state of New York, but thankfully I'm from the great state of Georgia. So we have a little bit of a different roadmap there and landscape there that we're actively exploring. We've already served them with a formal letter of intent to seek litigation. So we've already demanded that they preserve all records. So I really actually want to get down to the bottom of what actually prompted that editorial decision to remove the black people from the cover photo. Was it as innocent as they claim it was? Or is it actually what we think it obviously was? Their attempt to alienate and eliminate all of the black people from actually being a part of this story. I think we ought to know, and I think all of those who actually care about good journalism want to know as well. And so we're looking forward to getting to the bottom of that, and we hope that will be the resolution of this case.
Yeah, as you were speaking, my next kind of follow-up question was how you toggle between, suing the quote free press while simultaneously having a core value of free speech. But I think in and of itself, you've kind of answered it there, that this isn't necessarily about silencing the media. It's actually about exploring and getting the full, diving under and having all the information as to why these decisions are made the way that they are, so that people and readers and people that consume media in general have more of an understanding as to why they think the way they think, because they're being fed a narrative to think the way that they think. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're exactly right. And I think freedom of speech is important, but I don't think freedom of speech comes with the freedom to lie. And so I think that is what's important here. It doesn't come with the freedom to portray people that you don't like in a false light. And so I would, separate the two from this. And at the end of the day, I can take criticism. I can take a hit piece. That is not simply what this was. This was an overt attempt to defame and slander conservatives. And it's not something we should settle for. It's not something we should accept.
No, and how do you square away what you're doing with the new conservatism that you see now? Like, this is really like going hard at people and not taking it rolling over like we used to 4 years ago.
We're in a new era. This is the party of President Donald J. Trump. This isn't the party of Mitt Romney, George Bush, Susan Collins, or any of
Oh,
those squishes anymore. We're going to fight back. We're going to fight back hard, and and it's really truly in the spirit of President Trump. He's taken on CBS and many other publications, and he's done it, and he's won. And I think we ought to do the same.
yeah. One last question for you. I think it's pretty fair to say that while you were honoring all the influencers at the Power 30 Awards, you yourself have become like wildly influential among a generation of like our generation. And so my mindset when I see that, I'm like, oh, you'd think someone like yourself would want to be, somewhat of a full-time content creator, but you've really stepped into this interesting role of influencing policy and then also gathering the most influential people together. You're like the glue of conservative influencers. So how do you see your role and the importance of it in this current administration, but also in the future election years?
Well, that means a lot coming from you, Chrissy. And I gotta say, for me, having been in this movement for more than a decade and kind of gotten involved in the influencer space, or for the influencer space was even much of a thing, I kind of see my role as helping incubate the next generation of talent. I think we need to build a deep bench of people who can continue the good work that we're doing every single day. And I also think it's important that we connect our lawmakers, our folks in the administration these days now, with influencers to amplify the good work they're doing to cut through the fake news of the media. But also, too, I think we can have a lot of fun with this. And I think we're going to be doing that with many more events to come. The left wants us to be sad. They want us to be distraught. They want us to be as goalless as they are. We are not going to be. And so I'm super excited about what lies ahead. And there's a lot of work to be done and excited to do it.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. If people want to follow you, where can they find you?
They can follow me at the CJ Pearson on all platforms. And Chrissy Clark, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked what you heard, please be sure to subscribe and leave a comment about how beautiful, intelligent, and funny I am. And if you want more content, click right over here for more videos and clips of my show. I'll see you back here next time. Bye!